really, all these systems thousandfold more complex than they need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's recording, by the
So,
way, now.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's how he got in, and it's quite clear that before he came, there was a clear consensus on this. Everybody knows, the and without that, it's not worth doing anything. I mean, I appreciate the pressure from, this is how I did. I had long term. The last 10 years, I've been doing long term software maintenance, maintaining systems which are 20 years old.
Yeah.
That's actually a valuable thing. The whole check-in system for Lufthansa. If it wasn't for our effort, it just wouldn't keep up with whatever is needed. So.
No, I think all of us, we are all into software. I'm also programming for 40 years now, so I sort of know what is. I'm not let's say a professional IT guy. I just use IT for as a tool. I always say I'm in construction,
Yeah,
so but I've been programming ever since, and also in finance. So I my focus is heavily on finance, um,
yeah,
and I just use software to help me. Um,
yeah,
but I did big projects. So we were building. I had an IT company like 30 years ago. Or we were building something like Facebook before I even knew Facebook existed. So we were
yeah,
already
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about those concepts, and actually building it. So I sort of know what it takes to start a project like this, because it's quite a big project. And if you don't define, let's say, the scope of the project, you get burned somewhere. And that's how I work. So I don't know how others work, how people work now with AI can be different, but I still think
No,
you
we
need to
had a
have a scope.
discussion.
Yeah.
Teun, we had a discussion about that. If you work with AI, it's especially important to have a scope in front what you want to achieve, because if you don't, you wind up with a beautiful concept with annotations in a video clip like the project they are working on, and winding up with a chart with sewer pipes on top that nobody understands. You know,
Yeah.
it it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Have you any of you come across with the term UX writing?
Well, so what I think is that you start with a scope and sees, okay, this is sort of what you want to achieve. And what I see now, because and I think it's let's say it's caused by AI, because now you can say, oh, just build something like this, give me a nice UI that can have like a graphical representation, how people are connected. So you can imagine anything, and it's going to be built quite quickly. So then you have that thing. So let's say you build that thing, you let AI build that, and then you drop it in this group and say, okay, let's start testing it, and then sort of on the fly see what is good and what is bad. And I think it's the wrong way around, because so now you're using us like a test panel, and basically throwing away all our experience about defining projects and how you what is important. Does it run on IPFS or not? Instead of just building it and then on the fly sort of start to define your scope and cutting down things, and
Well, well, well,
it
well,
doesn't make sense to me.
well it's interesting because I'm sort of halfway there because the most important thing is really the interaction and the affordances. Does it feel good?
Hmm.
So uh, I think the idea that you prototype you instead of writing laboriously mock-ups and everything, with the AI you can actually build what you
Hmm.
would write down as a mock-up,
Yeah.
and I think that That's a good approach. That you find out, okay, is that my imagining of this interaction, does it land with others? Does it have? So I'm halfway. I do see the point of that. In fact, this is the thing that I do everything I do exactly the same way, except not be asking the AI and asking myself to describe it. The whole
Yeah.
point is that you have to animate that what you imagine. I call it experimental, for instance, for experimental exploratory experience design,
Hmm.
because the feedback, instead of going away and writing down the beautiful specs. I mean, I actually 2014, I had a valedictorian lecture where I had this vision that this is where UX writing comes in. It turns out 10 years later, that's actually a field now, where you really got to think about the interaction, the affordances, and how the workflow. It's
Yeah.
far more important uh, to figure out something which is. I mean, it's like this. There are. I give you a good example. Is Telegram. Even Telegram, with a really nice UI, really nice workflow.
Yeah.
But as I said before, it takes years to figure out all those hidden little affordances that
Yeah.
it can do. I think we're doing it all wrong. We really need to be able to communicate the intent not only through graphical bits, but actually, I mean, have you ever used the Telegram export facility?
Probably.
Have you tried to export your chat?
I think
It's
I did,
beautiful.
but it's like 3 years ago or 5 years ago I did that, I
Yes,
think.
but it's a
Yeah.
little wizard. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
little wizard,
Yeah.
and makes those link editable.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to start it from here? Basically, then you can click on it and you can modify it, what
Yeah.
it is. That's my idea of a good UI, which is kind of a wizard, which
Yeah.
is basically tell you, yeah, you want to do this, and in fact, you should be able to just nicely give links to, okay, this is the kind of interaction I want, and basically anything can be added to the end of a link.
Yeah.
So I think that strategy is okay. So, what I think, I worked on projects, and it's horrendous because of the technology, because it's all full stack, and you got 3 layers to bounce around. It's horrendous because you somebody imagines you UI, and even the smallest modification takes a lot of time and whatever. The whole thing is broken.
Yeah.
The whole idea that you need a full stack is nonsense. The browser has everything that you need. You can do everything in the browser. You can it just client side coding can do everything.
Yeah.
So this whole idea of having a database is really. I understand why we had databases in the old days, but it's long gone. I mean, the whole discussion. I don't know whether you're familiar with the no SQL movement. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, the very idea of SQL is 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 wrong, really. If you go back and do some computer archiving, archaeology, we had no concept of databases or network databases that were far better
Yeah.
than all these joins and all that crap. So anyhow, I know I'm far out with these ideas, but the whole point is, this is what I wanted to discuss, that I, IPFS is not just stores your data. It has you can shape your data through that graph. So basically, you need nothing else, and everything can be on the graph. And I was hoping you understand this, that we solve the sharding problem. If you do what you all want, if you want to give users full autonomy and control and self custody of everything they ever touched, everything they they had versioned, if you like. That's also possible with IPFS.
Yeah.
Then and we make the interactions also possible real time and even asynchronously. If we can just put these three things together, we can have a, a really large sort of interpersonal network which built on trust.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do, and uh, so that sort of horizontal vision is really now getting there, and all we need to do is make one thing, which is I've done that 20 years ago, 15 actually. That you have a browser native uh, kind of graph database, if you like, or basically ability, and have I call it mind graph, but it doesn't matter. The point is that if you can maintain a round trip between IPFS and your in-memory graph, okay. In fact, there is a real graph database written in JavaScript, but you don't even need that because, as I was saying, if you take in a holistic way, if you take care about the communication, take care of the storage and the organization of the information as a graph, and match these together, then as a whole, then you end up with a really really small and simple system, and can rely on all the networking and all the things with IPFS.
Yeah.
And okay, I think I told you about this tristero. So there is a async communication which can use IPFS, can use BitTorrent, whatever. It's magic. It's basically using WebSockets for asynchronous communication, and that can be used. And there are others, but tristero is really the best. And Cam is right, because Cam was right that the problem with relying on WebSockets, that you probably got about 40 of them in a browser on a machine. Okay, but if you think about it, that only issue for concurrent access. Now you'd never have 40 peers talking to you at the same time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work.
Sometimes.
And and we can also make it so that for any community, interpersonal community, obviously there is somebody must play the role of the hub, but that can be a virtual hub. That's the whole point. You
Yeah.
don't need and anyhow, I think it is. This is something that I was surprised that Cam didn't see, because the whole point, if you listen to, there is a talk at the Longview Institute, a 2 hours talk by him. Then I really want you to watch it, because he's talking at the same level. He built the whole system. He went back. He was already doing computer archaeology, but Camellia, that system, the idea that he built on was already 10 years old, 15 years old. He
Mhm.
just forgotten, you know. I mean, remember the early days of the web. Why do you think they wanted to outlaw cryptography?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Because
Again?
why
Cryptography.
did they at the outset, Netscape, there was an expert version of the browser which didn't have cryptography in it. Okay, they
Mhm.
understood it 60 or 35 years ago, that cryptography can empower people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So to me, this is a talk like this. This is, to me, this is specs. So what is it that we're building? And it begins with this kind of discussions, I think. Before you build a UI, a UI is very simple to build, but it's about,
Exactly,
what are we doing here? What is
exactly,
it that is
exactly.
new? What are we
Yeah,
trying to
Yeah.
solve? And I think this should be a sort of an example of how you should enter, let's say, this new world. Because I wrote my book I talk about the old world of scarcity and the new world of abundance, where you empower people, where you work in regional groups together, you have your own sort of currency, and it's a different world. And for me, is I'm only thinking about those concepts. So, and I see IPFS as one of the, I got like three key let's say, um,
Enabling technologies.
yeah, it's not only
Yeah,
technology. So key fields that will help us to create, let's say, a world of abundance. And I think
yeah,
IPFS is like a basis for that. So if you talk about technology, everything should look at what IPFS is doing, because that is what will give us freedom. Anything else will be taking away freedom from us. So that's one. The
where you
other,
see it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So the other one is law, and it's called people's law. So if you look at the legal system, the let's say the civil law system that we have is just taking away all our freedoms. And there's a higher law which is called people's law, and with that law you can issue identity cards, you can issue or you can have your own, let's say, judges that help you step out of let's say this fictional law system that we're in, and go to let's say a way fairer and a much more focused law system that provides freedom to us. So that's a very important one. And the third one is let's say this money system, because, and I think that this money system should be temporary, but it's very clear that the financial system that we're in is just sucking every freedom from us, because and we're losing all this freedom on all these 3 points, because the people that are really in charge, they don't want us to be free. they, they even don't want us to know
yeah,
that they exist. So we need to break free, and I think these 3 pillars sort of, they can help to do that. But you should, well, you should begin doing that, and this app to communicate with each other based on, let's say, IPFS could be a very good example on how, let's say, a true free, where the users are truly
yeah,
free,
yeah.
how that works. So,
Yeah,
and
I think can I just say that the point of this, that if all your personal everything you ever engage with is in a graph under your control, and any bit of it you can share. The point is, you don't just share one document, you share a node and its neighborhood. Okay, so it's self-organizing really, and what it ultimately it gives you is is a space which is singular for any conversation, but you can bring your own thing to it just by a link. You don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to hunt down. Yes, I talked about it here and there because it's a fine-grained, high-resolution addressability.
yeah,
If you say, "Oh, I thought about it," and you can find it and share it. That's really the important thing, because we can't, and that's the other thing. If you have an architecture or a constellation, common base peer produced constellation, which is universal in this sense, which is basically a universal person centered information management, then and that's the other thing, which is give you strong guarantees again through IPFS, that you don't just ship the information in whatever form it is. Basically, it's a graph, okay? Never mind. So whatever it is that you engage with, you at the same time ship all the apps that you need to interact with it. So
yeah,
you stop this divide that, okay, I go somewhere because I can do something there, and in exchange they steal my information.
yeah,
No,
exactly,
the
yeah,
whole point is, this is where IPFS, this is the thing you can uh, who I'm gonna the whole point is that it's not only the information but the very software. So you will have uh, restored what you had in the personal computer thing. If you had it installed on your machine, it's yours forever.
yeah,
You know, and not only that, this provides also, it's evergreen, and future future proof.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is that every time when you make a new modification, since there's an underlying universe for it's like JSON, okay? JSON has no version numbers. That's what he didn't know at the time, but that was his invention, greatest gift to mankind. Because if your underlying data representation is fixed, then it lasts forever. If you have to go version one, version two,
Yeah.
you lost. So because at the core there is basically a scheme which is autopoietic, so it's capable of describing itself in a homo iconic way, and capable of articulating itself and we make it processable. You can tweak that together, so you don't. So you got future proof things. So, but
Yeah.
I think what is really missing is the ability to have conversations where we can bring all our work to. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, and this is just a good opportunity to do that. That's so now my book is ready, sort of. I want to focus on, because I need also a communication app, because I have now like a
yeah.
10
Everybody does that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I I got 10 Telegram groups, I got 10 WhatsApp groups. It doesn't make sense, because these people should come together instead of being, and exactly what you
yeah,
say, going to one place to share this. No, they should come. And what is missing in my mind is also, I talked about the data type. So if you do captions, so there is a data that's a format for captions. So if you upload your captions to YouTube, it's according to a format. But the format is very simple. It's just a timestamp with a sentence. So this is set at that moment, and that will provide you captions on your video. Now I think that is too little, too small. So I think that every and let's start with a video. Every video should have captions that say, okay, this is the sentence that is spoken at this moment, so you can have a caption. But also, this is the person who's is saying this, so that you have more detail on what's going on in this video.
yeah,
Plus, you need to have the subject. What are they talking about? And that subject can last, let's say, 2 minutes, and let's say 5 people can do each 20 sentences of that subject. So that subject should also be part of the data that describes, let's say, that is part of the captions. And when you do that, this can be applied also on audio and also on books. Because if you have a book and you let this book be read by somebody, it's like sort of a film, So you can have a
verifiably with his identity or whatever, or so it's his copy. Does all the things that he wants to make changes or comments or whatever, do whatever he wants, and shares it back, and then we can have a hub process which weaves these changes together. Okay, so that makes it really simple if you make it asynchronous. Because when you annotate something, or work with a video, that's a private process. You don't want anybody else flushing around. You want to focus on it, do your thing, and share it back. So what all I'm asking to say is that much of the complexity of building software disappears if you just assume this kind of flow of information, because then everything.
I like the way you're thinking, because that includes also a personal comment which might be not agreeable by the rest of the group. And that
Yeah,
touches back to the base from
yeah,
yesterday.
and you can always
Let's make
choose.
up a document we all agree
Yes,
on.
and you
No,
yes,
let's
and
make several documents, and let's
Exactly.
state that Gyuri doesn't agree on it, or Patrick doesn't agree on it, and Teun does the opposite, and he agrees on it. You shouldn't have one document. You should have 6 documents.
Well, we should have as many versions of the document as there are participants, and we
Yeah,
need some simple process to 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 create a view, a shared view with a purpose. What I'm just saying, if you make this architecture or design or flow change, everything really becomes a simple. I got all the information on the page, okay, and or I got 12 sources of the same information. So all you need to do is apply those changes. You know, it's like a diff, you know, in. So I think, and again, because it's always a hub and spoke communication. There is one center which is a virtual center. It's not somebody. It's just like another individual, a sort of social self. We are all our own selves, and we create a name. So it's like what you do with this thing. We have to give a name to that space where we are now. Okay,
So yeah,
the
sorry,
same thing.
I missed I missed something.
Anyway,
The power got cut. Boom. So
it
I
was
hope,
just the
yeah,
technical design.
yeah, I hope my the video didn't get corrupted that I was taking. So it's quite unfortunate, but um, yeah. So I was saying something about this data type uh, for let's say to capture videos. Um, so if you're talking about, let's say, a dialogue app, so I think that is sort of one of the first discussions you need to have for how you're gonna take the captions of these videos, and so otherwise you can't find time. You can't find really what you're doing or what you're talking about. So. Um, and to me, it's strange to build something before you even discuss things like this. Uh, Plus, also how you're gonna store it. So because that's I think yeah, what are you gonna do exactly? Where are you gonna store? Are you gonna store all these videos yourself on a server or like YouTube does?
No,
You know?
as I said, if you, this is I don't know whether I show you this story. We had this argument with Cam about Pinata. I mean, that's such a super uh, cheap, really, because you got huge amount of information storage capacity for basically at around the same price. It would take you to spin up a cloud machine itself.
VPS. Yeah.
And the point is that once you go with IPFS, you do not need anything else for storage,
Yeah.
because what we're trying to do, or there is this opportunity, which is already was invented 15 years ago. I don't know whether you remember 2010, uh, the HTML5 thing movement. Okay, and that at the time when Google was still had the ethical codex of don't be evil. Okay, so at that time they invented local first, then they invented offline first, progressive web apps. Okay, which basically said and they used it for Google as well. They basically achieved the track that, like at some point, and then Google Docs said, "Oh, would you like to have this document available offline?" Hmm?
Yeah.
So clearly, the browser has everything, and they figured out all the communication that yes, you can take your own copy, your own document. You take a copy offline, you work on it. At some point, you synchronize.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I mean, we had everything already. The browser had been capable, and also at the same time, We have WebSockets coming out. Unfortunately, it took 15 years for it to work, or 10 years. No, it was just never worked. Now we all rely on it. Okay, WebSockets are working, but without WebSockets we couldn't do this. You know, all this is is not this sort of everybody communicates with this. So we communicate, and the spy in the middle is just one node. You know,
Yeah.
so anyhow, so what I'm trying to say is that we have this possibility of of and this is that to have to really give people autonomy and custody of their all their digital life. I call it now that it was the personal digital assistant, okay? But I want a personal digital archiver. I want it to be automatic, that anything I
Can I jump
engage
in?
in. Yes, yes,
Can I
yes.
jump in, Gyuri? Can I connect Teun's question about storage to what you were describing about Pinata and how
Yeah.
we can use that? My concern is if you store something at a third party, if somebody pulls the plug on the third party, then your storage is gone. Is that a reasonable assumption, or am I?
No, 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 because the whole point is this is why I said all you have to do is run IPFS desktop yourself on your machines, okay? And anything you ever share with anybody, it may have been pinned on Pinata, but if three people ever looked at what you shared, it also exists on their machines, okay? So this is the thing. If I just noticed this, uh, if you run your own, if this is it is a distributed network, and the more something that's shared, uh, you don't need the pinning anymore. Okay, the pinning is needed for it to really get started. So I
or to
think
keep alive. You
and
need one machine. You need one
yeah, and
machine to keep it alive.
no,
So that is pinata in
no,
this
you
case.
don't need to keep it. You don't need.
No,
You
it stays
don't
alive.
even need that.
I understand it. Yeah.
It's yes. The
Yeah.
whole point is that
But I think can I ask you something? Sorry.
yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
because I always compare it like with a BitTorrent. So you have a file. Let's say the file is 10 megabyte. Um, so
Yeah.
then if everybody shares his files, and if you only have like three machines where this sorry no if you only have if how should I say this um, s-
Seeds. It's called
yeah
seeds.
yeah so you have so
Yeah.
you cut it up. Let's say I cut it up in 10 pieces, and then I need to then I'm gonna, let's say, put 10% on this computer, 10% on that computer, 10% on that computer. So I could do that. But then if one computer get lost, then I'm losing
No,
my
no, no.
file. No,
No,
no.
no, no. It's
Yeah, I
sorry,
understand.
sorry. It
I
works the other way around.
yeah.
Every computer has a full set of the bits. What is different is that if you have that video and 10 other people have the video, okay,
Hmm.
then those bits, the protocol will get it from multiple places. That's
Yeah.
the beauty. So if you share a video, and the more something gets shared, and more people will have it in their nodes, you will actually get multi parallel downloads for the
Yeah.
bits.
Yeah. So if I have the video and let's say Patrick has the video and my computer would crash, then with the link I can always get his, and then it will be
Yes,
restored on
yes,
my system again. That is sort of the
yes,
trick.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. The pinning is there for as a last resort. I mean, I find, and in fact, uh, the other thing that you can make it even more resilient If you got a group like us now, okay, called Dialogue 2, whatever it is,
Yeah.
if each of us would run IPFS desktop, and if we would share our node identities with each other, then we would have a ring of people, and if only one of them is up, everything will work for everybody. So you don't even need a pinner.
Yeah, exactly.
If you got a network of people, say up to a dozen people, you'll never need a pinning. I'm doing it now. I haven't automated it, and I don't even want to do it at that low level. I don't want to do it at the level of okay, you have to fiddle with your IPFS desktop. No, we could create a ring of trust for this group,
Yeah.
and I want to have that simple little thing is to say, well, actually, if you could you could I build this. I want to I want to be able to ask anyone in our trust network for any IPFS address. Okay, but the communication should happen through the trust network, the
Yeah.
peer-to-peer network. But I should be able to send you a request to something that we all shared before, or send requests to any of the other people. Uh, but it's all this one is all only possible because IPFS does guarantee that if you have access something at once, it will remain on your machine.
Yeah.
And then had like I was looking into how many nodes were active, and then a certain count went up to 3 or to 4 instead of the 2. I have the master nodes who are replicating on IPFS, and the third one was actually my browser.
Okay.
That's the
So
point. That's the point. This is
that's the
why
point.
in browser link is the key, because it makes
Hmm.
anyone who just uses a browser, nothing else, is already part of the IPFS network. That's the real beauty. That's what
That's
they,
true.
they,
That's
they
true.
wanted to do. Build on that. You don't need the only the only one needs to run IPFS desktop for sure. Is the one who is actually want to host a hub, want to act as a hub. But I
Yeah.
actually that no, there is one other reason why everybody should run IPFS desktop. Not always, just occasionally, because that way you can really guarantee that if your machine dies, you still have the information.
Yeah.
So it's really a dynamic backup as well
Yeah.
across your machines. So I have two laptops, and I rely on that. In fact, that's the other thing, you probably don't know this, but in IPFS desktop, and I can write a program to do this, but I do it manually at the moment. At IPFS desktop, I have all my current work stored under one diary node, okay, structure. And what I do, I if I want to transfer, I want to ensure that all my information in one machine is mirrored in my other machine,
Yeah.
the one that I freshly added. I just take the CID of today's node
Yeah. You
and send it through a channel to my other machine
yeah.
and say, please create a new folder mirroring. I call it mirror ThinkPad
Yeah.
folder with
Yeah.
that CID, and
Yeah.
it basically does it,
Yeah.
and it does it
Mhm.
lazily, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just amazing. That power that you can just share one CID, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because then when you share that CID, it actually does the walk through it. It doesn't get all the bits. It just gets that structure. So he knows where to go if you actually want to open that. So that's the other thing. When you share a folder like that, it's it doesn't take forever because it is just it basically transmits the metadata. So when you
Yeah.
actually want to get that, then it gets it and gets that particular resource, while at the same time have strong guarantees that all the information will be available. And no better still, that even if I turn off this machine, if I shared some, we can experiment with this. If I share something with you, and just using in browser, uh, I could get it back even if I lost it. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. 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 It's quite amazing. Ah. So how do we go forward?
Well, I want to what I will. I have an agenda. Obviously, everybody has. I really, I'm so aligned with your whole vision of things, and with Patrick, that as I said, I didn't expect this. That in a talk I talk about IPFS and people click. It really, you can see it instantly because you already be looking for it. Okay,
I
that's the reason.
you're looking
Hmm?
for it for 30 years for this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And you
so
know it will
so.
come. You
Uh,
know it's possible. So you know it.
well,
But you. Yeah.
I did the same. I think I shared that in 2014. I commented it now. When we worked on when we already had the mind graph and Wikinizer and everything, and submitted to, there was a competition. Uh, the There was a competition for what was it? Something linked data. Anyhow, and so we wrote it up so to be the demo. And what happened was that the form filling to apply for this competition was broken. You know, and they said, okay, here is a Microsoft Word paper template. So you basically just fill in those headings. So we sat down and together with my old friend, we worked on it for 4 years, this whole thing, and we wrote that paper effectively in one sitting in 12 hours. Okay, and that's my top downloaded paper when I'm not checking it now for I haven't logged into ResearchGate, but there was 5,000 people actually downloaded it, you know, and I wrote about this, but I actually met one guy where I was still around Outlier Ventures, and I met a guy, we really talked, and he had that paper on his pen drive, but it's all about all about the Wikileaks research was basically Rome research 7 years before. Okay, it was basically networking, personal knowledge graph builder. So it's
Yeah.
called personal knowledge graph builder, uh, anchored in linked data, or so Treebase. Treebase was the original knowledge graph that Google bought to make his own knowledge graph. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And in fact, 20 years later, I would say I'm interested in mutual learning graphs so that we can actually share our learning. But that's all it is. That's all it is about.
Yeah.
Even software is just symmetry, mutual learning. So what I want, so I have all this set up. I have uh, in the wiki, I got a mind graph, all working. I can demo it to you, graphical, throw away because it's the basic thing that is needed. And now I'm doing I did actually back in 14, I got demo. I had a full round trip between Google Docs and the mind graph. So you can have your all your documents generated from a graph or turn any document you wrote into a graph, sort of a learning graph. And and then I wanted to ship this with Google Plus as the social network. I was ready to ship when Google Plus was turned off.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point I realized, oh, by the way, even at the very first paper we wrote, uh, we were shipping this next generation personal knowledge management tool. That was what we launched it with, and he said, "Oh, can you give me a systems diagram?" high prefer. I never considered it to work in the current system.
Yeah.
In fact, I did try. I tried with the graph databases. First of all, they were expensive, but the very concept of the graph or the network is that it's unenclosable. So as you say, I was hoping for something like IPFS turn up one day, and I did learn about it in 2016. Little did I know that it would take 10 years for it to actually work,
Yeah.
because without that in-browser link app, which is installed on your machine as soon as you access it, and spins up an IPFS node in your browser, the whole thing doesn't work. Okay,
Uh-huh.
but it took them 10 years to get to that for actually. It was there in 9 years, but it took a year to actually iron out the bugs. You get this tremendous simplicity. You don't want to know. It's 1,000 programmers worked on this over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's that complex. So what going forward is that I'm working on the ability to really share and collaborate on documents. I got it working 4 years ago, GN and everything, uh, except that it used OrbitDB, which itself was relying on IPFS. But it turned out it only had about 80% geographic coverage. It didn't have that rock solid reliability that it will work.
Yeah.
Well, it's useless unless you have rock solid. So what
Yeah.
I would like to do to ask you is we should start working. I'll show you how to get and get to work on shared documents. I will share it so you can start working on shared documents and try to spec out exactly. Start think together
Yeah.
in this sort of writing, because that's what we really need to figure out. What you exactly. It's all articulation, because that's the other thing. I hope you appreciate this. That software is practical magic. If you can deem it so, you can have it. All you have to do is describe it in sufficient detail and clarity and structure, and you can it will work on your machine. So it's really this is why UX writing. I recommend you look into it. This is why UX writing. I just annotated it today. UX writing is all about that articulation. Figure what is it we want, what behavior, what is the goal,
Yeah.
what, and of course that's the other thing. The best thing about it. I hope you can work on it. Spend some time on it at least. Is uh, that I believe, and this is how I build the system now. I just write documents, structured, interchangeable documents, and and eventually write a little JavaScript to do what I just specified. So it's
Mhm.
not literate programming where you describe what you do and then put in code snippets. No. The whole point is that there is a universal base. I treat HTML as a universal data exchange format, which is programmable, malleable, even within the browser interactively.
Yeah.
So I rely on that and everything. But if you can make that assumption that everything is a kind of document which is self-describing, that's the other very important thing. You don't relegate into standards and formats and XSDs and whatever. I got a notation which enables you to articulate these organizational ideas.
Maybe we are thinking about something else which is external of IPFS. So we have to make some sort of communication outside of the IPFS native
Yeah,
bundle
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah. But I think uh, if, please check out critpad.org and critpad because it's got a really beautiful onboarding because it's got basically if you have access critpad page, it creates a private, secure, local account on your machine. So there's no need to sign up. And it even guarantees for all the things that you did with it for 90 days to be alive. and then invites you to register. Again, registering doesn't mean sharing emails. All it means that you create a cryptographic identity on your machine,
Mhm.
and and make sure you don't forget the key, the
Yeah.
password. Okay,
To
so
talk about the European thing is like we are creating a digital wallet. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but what I'm
that's
saying is
exactly what it is.
that the,
Yeah,
that the whole idea of signing in and signing up is dead. You know, if
I
you
agree. We should take a look at different ways to onboard on things, and we don't
because
rely
basically
on email.
onboarding in a trust network means human trust network. I can send you a link which is part of this new network, and just because of that, you can become uh, autonomous part of that network and do the same to others. So that's it. We do have trusted channels already because that's how we can communicate. You know, we share the emails, whatever. But once you share email
Yeah.
with somebody else, why should you create something where they have to sign up and use their email? That's obviously is not in our interest to do that. Yeah,
No. It's the only thing which falls really outside of the scope and has a hook into the Web's 2.0 environment, you might say. It's a
yeah,
traditional way to do it, so it's the most logical way to approach it, and that's what people know. So you lower the threshold to onboard because they know it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
I should
I
take a
missed.
look into it
Yeah.
because you make a very valid point here. Yeah.
I'm sorry for that. I don't know what's wrong with the electricity today, so I dropped again. Um,
Yeah, it happens time.
so I missed a bit, and it's already difficult to follow everything because it's so much. Um, so you're talking about sharing links instead of logging into closed closed off
Yes,
areas.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Uh, I think that okay. I mean, there's many ways of doing this, and I'm still. I realize that to get off the ground, I really I got three options. I got my own thing. I got CryptPad, and I got Virgos as a way in.
Yeah.
CryptPad is the easiest and the best because it basically. I don't know whether I've done it, but if you share anything that you created on CryptPad, okay, you have and you don't need only a registered account, but I actually got a paid account. Okay, so you can actually, with paid account, you can create teams as well. But that's something that. So once you share it, I would like to start this experiment to working together. I just share a quick document with you
Yeah.
both,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and
I I
what
I, I saw you sent me already one crypt graph, but I didn't really understand the concept behind it.
yeah,
Uh,
that's why I say we really need to schedule at some point. No, no, we really need, and I need to get ready for it to really equip that and the other onboarding things, so we can actually be on the same page. So
exactly.
that's the
Yeah.
motto.
Yeah.
Bring people
I
on the
Yeah.
same page.
Yeah. So
I
so
can
yeah.
turn. Take a look at their website, cryptvet.org, I think it is.
Feedback.org,
And
it explain it, and they got the
that
feedback as well.
makes a lot more sense, and then you can
Yeah.
understand the sharing Gyuri did
Yeah,
to
yeah,
you
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
Because
so
sharing a document, Gyuri, with no
yeah, yeah.
offense, is difficult for even technical people.
No, it's really worth looking at. I mean, that's the best if you look at. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
And it's
so
beautifully written.
yeah.
It's really
I
nice.
didn't want to ask you to explain exactly how it works. We'll find that out. But what I wanted to say is that I saw a few of those initiatives. So Patrick has probably talked about Cortal, but before that, I saw also different initiatives where they have like special file systems, encrypted or not. What I always saw is that there is like a screen where you have like icons of which let's say software that runs on that system. So you always have like a word processor, you have like an Excel, you have like a video, you have
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
so
yeah.
and what I would sort of like to see to just to get an overview of what IPFS is there like a screen with icons that say okay these apps they run on they run on IPFS sort of. So just to get an overview of okay these people are working so you can oh this is a word processor but and next to that there is like what is it that makes IPFS unique. So it's storage, it's sharing, it's so and that can be explained. Let's say simple. What, for example, in the group where we're in with Josh, what I see is that people don't understand what's going on. so
Yeah,
so
but
uh,
we shouldn't even talk to them about IPFS is a protocol. It's
exactly.
like trying to explain what HTTP is.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well,
Yeah,
don't,
No,
don't.
exactly. So
I mean,
so
okay,
yeah,
you can explain conceptually. It's very simple.
yeah,
It basically says
exactly.
every piece of information has a unique cryptographical generated verifiable identity, and using that identity, the network makes sure that it gives it to you. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
There is
But but
nothing
but
else to
but
IPFS.
even if you say such a sentence, I know that Josh won't understand it. So
Yeah, I
so
know, but
yeah.
I know, but the point is that so it's not IPFS we need to focus on. We need
No,
to
no.
focus
So yeah,
on on as you said. I mean, the
but
ability to work together. Yeah.
I can understand the question from Teun because did somebody took the initiative to bundle some sort of um, apps or whatever and put it together so we can take a look at the capabilities of what's possible on IPFS just by a collection of possibilities in one place.
yeah. So in my book, for example, I have a page about IPFS. I try to sort of put it in my words how what it is, and it probably probably has some flaws. I don't know, but I think that is sort of that it would be handy because what is sort of happening is that we're trying to uh, um, let's say to bring not only Josh but all the users. So let's say everybody that was on economy 2.0 show, all the economists that were there, you want to sort of keep them engaged because that is the problem that Josh has. That's how I look at it. You have a long talk, you put a lot of preparation in it, and then you edit the video, and then you do the thumbnails and everything and the captions, and then you put it there, and then 200 people look at it and it's gone. And when you and that's a shame, because it's value information, sort of, perhaps not all, but uh, probably quite some is. and and I think what he's trying to do is to get more engagement by sort of connecting the subjects that are being talked about, so that when you make a new video, it's easy to go back and see, okay, this has already been discussed by this person.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, so you create engagement. So his work becomes more valuable because now it's just lost. And I know the feeling. It's very discouraging if you put a lot of effort in it. He's working for a week on a video, for example, and then 200 people look at it, and then perhaps 10 comments. So, and nobody's paying. So, what are you going to continue doing that for the next 4 or 5 years? I think it's a tough decision, and but the sell. So there needs to be a sort of a sell to him. Okay, you need to it's possible to organize this differently. This is what you can do. This is sort of how you store the data, how you can connect the data, and you make a user interface that will work. Because to me, what I saw, I think it was terrible. In my mind, if I see something like this, I will never use it, because it should be exactly what you said about Telegram. It should be like a wizard. So I'm just watching a video. I don't want to be disturbed by any buttons or anything. And then I say, oh, I have a question, and then I need to, and then something happens that can bring me further. I don't want to see how this communication worked in the last 15 years, or how many people, like with all these graphs that you can make.
Right.
It doesn't say anything.
I,
Yeah. Sorry, what do you want to say?
yeah, you reminded me, and I just realized the most important thing that came out of the call was that Josh, quite rightly, wanted people to get out of YouTube.
Yeah.
And I now realize that if you do this sort of annotation, if you do these things right, we could do the whole thing without YouTube. You
Yes.
can have it on YouTube, and on YouTube you could have a link to the associated thing without logging in or anything.
Yeah.
So and that part I'm working on. I say, okay, I got the video on IPFS, and the point is that if I got the video on IPFS, the code that does anything with it comes with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a separate thing. And I already started. I just started. I took a transcript and I just say, okay, I give you this transcript, and effectively, instead of annotating the transcript, you can take that transcript and break it into chunks for the bits that you're interested in, and
Yeah.
turn them into nodes
Yeah.
in your own personal learning graph.
Yeah.
Okay, and in fact, I can make I want to work that way through and show it to you, hopefully next week, because that's
Yeah.
the thing that you remember I told you 3 weeks ago. I realized that, and of course, all I need to do, I don't need AI. Would be helpful, but no, there's an open source video player which can do everything you ever want.
Yeah.
All you
Yeah.
have to
But
do is customize.
so, but my question would be, can it also annotate, let's say, subjects? Because I don't think they can. So I think that this is like a human step. If you can have AI, let's say, presented to you the best he can, but there should be always like a human, let's say, checkup to
Yeah,
go
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly,
to go
exactly,
over. Yeah.
exactly.
And then you get to the
Any,
quality. Yeah.
yeah,
And then you get to the quality that you want. Because then you can say, okay, this is a subject. You can type the subject, and you can have even AI presented to you. Okay, I think this is the subject that hasn't been discussed, and then I check it. Is this the subject that hasn't been discussed? And if it's not, I'll change it. But if you do that with every video, and it's a lot of work. People don't. I think nobody in this group understands this, but this is to me the key. So you have a video. The first thing you need to worry about is about let's say the annotation or the transcription of it. That should be sort of pushed to a very high level, to the highest possible level. Only when you do that, you get extra value out of this video, and you have a chance that people in the future go back to it because it's understood well. This subject is talked about by this person. You don't even need to see the video. You can just pull what is being said. This person and that video, that time, this subject, and you just get the text. And then you can decide, okay, do I want to see a clip of that? No, and then you go back to the clip. Or you can even, and I think that is what's really powerful, because I wasn't the electricity got cut when I got there. So when you do this for every book, every video, every sound bite, or so let's say everything that is data, basically. When you do that on that way, then I can have a book and I can get AI to say, okay, make a film out of this. And then I see a Chinese person talking to an African person in this video in their language, because and you can have a book being expressed like this, or a film, or and you can have a film
Yeah,
being translated into a book in any language that you want, because it's done properly. And only when you do it properly, it's possible. Because if you don't do it properly, you get a funny film. People saying crazy stuff because the AI couldn't understand what they were saying. And if you translate it to Chinese, it becomes
yeah,
even more ridiculous.
yeah.
So and that is sort of what I think this data type can do. If you want to do this properly, that comes to mind, and I think it's important. If you don't want to do it, okay, don't do it. But I think it's a very big missed opportunity. And if you think about that, and you think a bit further, then you can have a search engine like Google, but then it's not Google. It's a search engine that is just scrubbing these let's say enhanced, or was the word for it, augmented let's say transcript, put them into, let's say, a database, and then you can search. And I think that would be very valuable, instead of, yeah, okay. You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I think there's just one little, uh, well, not little, it's a huge gestalt which I want to say. It's not scrubbing. The whole point is that in the what I'm talking about with the interpersonal network, this is what we discussed in the core. You have all the information you ever engage with yourself,
Yeah,
and you can index it yourself, and you can search it yourself on behalf of anybody else.
yeah,
And that search that they ask you about this is recorded.
yeah,
Okay? So it's not scrubbing, it's basically building reputation which is verifiable.
yeah,
Okay? That yes,
exactly.
yes, yes, all these questions come to me, and I tell everyone, because exactly in that video they realize, oh, there is something that Patrick produced the other day. I read, yes, and so the whole point is that the most important thing is to establish these interpersonal connections, because you can ask you can ask the other without bothering them, because you can just
Exactly.
ask, well,
Yeah,
do you have anything to say? I mean, I got 100,000 annotations. I really want you to test it. If you got anything that is interesting in this space, write the query to hypothesis. Don't even put my name in it.
yeah,
Okay? And that's amazing, and
yeah,
that's a centralized model. But
yeah,
you could imagine the same thing, that you will eventually, instead of crawling, you could send that request in your network to up to say 2 hops away. So you
yeah,
can you can ask your friends of a friends about
yeah,
what
yeah,
do you know, and the chances are that the search result will be better, because obviously that human connection not guarantees there is something in common in interest. So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to,
Sorry.
yeah,
No, I use the word scrubbing also a bit, like how you call it, to I forgot the name, but
scraping.
no,
Yes,
scrub
yes,
is scrubbing is like you just scratching and just collecting dust and try to make some sense out of it. That's what Google does. Eh? So it looks at a website and it just takes it, and it's messy. But if you properly describe everything and then instead of just yeah, guessing basically, because it's just you scratch and then you guess what it is. That's what Google does.
Yeah.
So instead of that, you can properly index it as you say. So
And the interlink, that's the point.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
meaningfully linked to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So which is so powerful, you know. So I already was thinking, if you are, let's say, developing these apps for, that's why I also said you have this screen with all these apps, and there should be, let's say, sort of a search engine for let's say IPFS files, if that is possible, or it's a personalized,
Well, no. I've been
you know.
sponsoring IPFS search for the last 10 years. And last year they shut it down because there is no sponsorship.
Yeah,
If you give me $100,000, I can contact the guy and say, please resuscitate IPFS search. I was relying on IPFS search in the first 2 years.
yeah,
I even relied on the fact that I put up things on IPFS and I used IPFS search to find my own stuff
yeah.
and everything else related to it. That was the
Yeah,
beauty.
yeah. But that, you
Yes.
know,
But
so
again, yeah.
so 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 those are the first steps, I would say. So how do you index basically the files that are on the IPFS and
No, no,
and
no, 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 no. I thought that I explained the other day. If everyone
mm,
in this network on IPFS has given the tools to index completely and turn their own bit into a graph,
yeah,
which is mirrored on IPFS,
yeah,
you don't need IPFS search. You search the individuals who
yeah,
contribute to IPFS.
yeah,
Okay, and
I yeah,
that's something that everyone needs. Everyone needs a
yeah,
complete index of all they
yeah.
care about.
No, I say the same thing that you say. Um, we just need to describe how this indexing works,
Yes.
because it's different. It's not scraping or scratching or how you call it,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
crawling or whatever they call it. No, it's
It's
personalized.
scrolling. It's scrolling.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
personalized, but it's very dedicated. So which is totally different than what is happening.
Yeah.
And then you
And not
can,
only that, even each document is connected meaningfully with each other with two-way links,
yeah,
or
yeah.
even every paragraph or every snippet of interest. Yeah.
But I can also imagine that you want to make some things public, that you say, okay, I share it with this and this and this person, but there might be other people that also are interested in this document, like my book, for example. Everybody should be able to download it. So how does that work?
Well, the way that works, this is the beauty of it,
Yeah,
is that whenever you share anything, you share a starter, you share a summary, you share something, a page which will have linked to other things, and every time they click on a link, that generates a request to to yourself, or if you authorize to, you just send back the send back, or send it before, but send back the CID
yeah,
of the next page. Okay.
yeah,
So the beauty of this, and this is why it is important, because it really enables you not to be in a situation that somebody just downloads all your stuff. Okay, because uh, you need to do this. I haven't done this, but it really is. You only share through these personal connections the things that you want to share in bits.
yeah,
And this is why I don't even care about keeping all my information, because it's in small chunks. If all my information is in small chunks, every paragraph really exists on IPFS as a node, but is not connected to anything else. I have I haven't. It's all accessible if you know if you know the name of it, but otherwise you don't. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the vision is to get. I wanted to, from the outset, even before AI came, I wanted what I'm trying to do with IPFS, something which doesn't require encryption, but at the same time is resistant to scraping. Okay, because basically, if because that's the other thing. Uh, I, it's this if you we should put your book onto this. I have to do that because I wanted to do that. I want to turn your book into a hyperbook, which would have that property
Yeah.
that that sort of revealing, sort of what that is, one by one revealing, and because that's important for you as an author, because it gives you feedback,
Yeah.
verifiable feedback that people actually read that page or at least opened that page. Hmm?
Yeah.
And also, it's an opportunity. That also is an opportunity. All your readers should be able to converse with each other, should be able to annotate it together.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here. So,
Yeah, but this is it. It's better. It's even better. It's not annotate, but innotate. I'm proposing
okay.
because the point is that if this is the case, any page or any half a page or a paragraph, whatever that is shared or any meaningful named unit we share, the sharing implies that you have your own copy, so you can inline annotate. You can just highlight anything and write or create another page in your space talking about that. That's what annotation is. It's innotation. Okay, you highlight a bit and create your own page that talks about that bit, and they are linked. Okay, so that way it's better than annotation.
Yeah.
And also, I also experimented with the other way of doing it is that uh, you just put in a block and inline you write your commentary.
Yeah.
Okay, and the point is that when you share it back, then we just need to write a little adapter which will turn it into whatever that is best viewed from your end.
Yeah.
And this is always assuming that whenever you look at something, the other will want a different view. And that's baked into the whole architecture,
Yeah.
is that you share information with a specific designated view. And
That's
depending on which way the information travels, or what
yeah.
that all is customizable. You can do it. And the most important thing from this whole indie web constellation is that everything is deeply tinkerable. Everything that works here, you have a complete open source copy, or even open source, and these are all open constructs. They are designed to be hacked from within the browser, and you can change it to yourself and customize, and with a link share it back to whoever you want it to.
Yeah.
So I
That's
want to make this whole process of knowledge creation and learning, mutual learning, includes mutual working on the tools that you need to constantly improve that
yeah.
whole process.
Yeah, it's amazingly interesting because, for example, so what I did with this book, and this is the first time I did that, but every line is now numbered. So I have a file where every paragraph, every title has his own unique number, and I use that to translate it. So, and then I have a program that use that translation and generate a PDF out of it. So that is what I
Yeah,
did now. And so this
yeah.
morning, this morning, by the way, I finished my Hungarian version. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna talk to Gyuri, so let's make that thing ready. So
Well,
it's
send me a link, or share it with me somehow, or put it in a document.
yeah.
I don't know,
Now what is
whatever.
interesting is because I have a local LLM to translate these lines, but I know it makes mistakes. But my
Yeah,
Hungarian is not what it used to be. So So I can't, I don't know if it's right or wrong. But what is interesting, when you talk about annotations, what I could do is just put my book, let's say, on in this way, on one way or another, on the IPFS, and allow people that are in Hungary to say, okay, this doesn't make sense. This is a wrong translation. Have a link to the original English line that is being supposed to be there, and help translate this thing instead of yeah, do it in another way. So normally
That's an interesting idea because I need to do something like that. I already got a couple of books in Hungarian
Mhm.
that bits of it I want to translate, and I do rely on Google Translate. It's not too bad, but it does need, so I need that capability myself in the other direction. Yes,
Yeah,
that's actually a nice use case to have. Yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah,
and it's working quite well, So it's you have a few steps, and the last one is a sort of a human step because I need to go over it because there are some small issues that I just can't program away. I don't know how to solve those. The issue is most of the time is when you have a link inside a paragraph, the translator just get it get confused because you need to make a mask of the link and then you need to say everything. So then you have, instead of one translation of a sentence, you have three, and they make a mess out of it. So
yeah.
so there are some issues that just AI can't solve, and at least I don't know how to solve that. Um, Perhaps you can have an AI correct it again, could be, but it's it's quite complicated. But the first step is to have every line and every chapter as a separate line. And what I did is then I have also a separate file that tells the system if this is a title, it must be bold, or so the styling. So I have basically two files. The styling is for every book the same. So you have one styling file, and then for every language you have another file. Um, and it's just like it's just a JSON file, just text. And then I have a PHP to put it together and generate the PDF. Um, but yeah, so it will be very. It looks like I'm in it under a table now.
Yeah.
So, so but if we can have so all these things sort of tie together to me, So annotation, the dialogue app, creating a book.
Yeah,
It's all. It looks all. So you're all working on the same problem basically that can be solved,
yeah,
and we can solve this, I think, with a proper annotation format, um, and then the tools that go with it. And I don't know if anybody has done that before. To me it's like strange that no that I don't know if that is done before. Let's say this augmented, improved, let's say, transcription tool. Because I think it will solve a lot of issues.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
can
Especially, yeah,
you got local translation. You can most people use Whisper to translate it. It's a local LLM which you can load, and I've put something in the
Oh,
chat. It's a copy out of my script which I use to translate videos in different languages, and that's an advanced form of Whisper. It's called Whisper C Translate 2. It's an advanced version. It doesn't make as much mistakes as Whisper does locally.
you put it somewhere. Don't put it in the
In the
JSON.
chat.
in the chat of this.
In the chat.
Yeah,
In the chat.
but I can't, I can't find it. I don't
No,
see it.
if you tap on it, well, I came up. It got a little text
Yeah,
bubble
but it doesn't.
icon.
Yeah, it says open the chat, but it doesn't open at my side. I see add breakout room, and then Perhaps I need to.
Oh,
Well, I see it. I see
I
it.
funny,
don't know why
funny.
it's. Yeah. I need
Well,
to.
it's
Yeah, I see it
exactly.
now.
I can put it in your.
Yeah.
Oh, you see it now?
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
I had to enter my name first, otherwise I can't join a chat. Apparently.
Okay, but you can actually use a better version for a local LLM for translation, which makes considerably less mistakes.
Okay.
That's a better version. So maybe there is a newer version. This is like a half year old. So probably on the moment is even better one.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll copy it. Ah man, my computer.
Which one does she translate to? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
If you could, I use it in my pipeline script. So it first pulls the subtitle from a video, presumably English most of the time, and then it runs this to C Translate 2. It's like instantly it's a big ask, but it's like you see the lines coming on your screen. It's like bum 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 bum. It's like 1 minute and it has a video of 1.5 hours.
I think we lost Gyuri.
I think so too. Only see you now. At the moment.
Zo, kunnen we weer Nederlands praten?
Ja, we zijn te weinig contextueel of filosofisch bezig. We zijn weer te praktisch bezig. In één keer is hij weg. Heel
Ja.
vreemd.
Ja. Ja.
Ja, maar wat ik wel begrijp en waar hij zichzelf eigenlijk in downplayt, is dat hij wel degelijk betrokken is bij bepaalde programmeringen van bepaalde projecten.
Hi,
You're back again.
Okay, that was a wrong swipe. That closed it. Oh.
Well,
And then my internet said, "Okay, I had enough of you. Please restart me. I've been going mobile hotspot for 2 days running. Please restart."
I served you a lot of webhooks already, so bye.
all right. So, yeah, where were we? With the the question I asked before, how to continue. I think because my book is ready, I sort of decided to let's say spend half of my day every day the next weeks to work on this IPFS thing.
Well, I could put if you put it up or just a bit of it on IPFS, which you can do, I can do whatever, and I what I do, I put everything I read. I probably already done it. I don't know. I put it up on IPFS. That's my personal web archive. Okay,
Yeah.
and and annotate it with hypothesis.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what
so.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, and we
And
can
what I would like to.
sorry. Yeah, we can make like say a document, as you said, so that where we just put our progress in. So what are we doing every day?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were doing in. We should have all our little personal wikis and started and this is what we did at Easy Stuff in the morning. That was before wikis or anything.
Okay.
80, 98, 97. So we had our own handcrafted blog pages and wrote, okay, today we want to do this. This is what I do, and at the end of the day, said what managed to do, and we had this slogan: always they always finish the day in a success. And it was a small startup, 20 people, 25 middleware middleware, and we had a monthly meeting, but there was nothing to discuss because the boss knew exactly where things are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good.
And we had 4 developers each building their own own products, which actually interlink. So there was a guy who wrote the ODBC, JDB, ODBC server, which basically ODBC is a local protocol and enabled anybody to access it via the web, your local access database.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did the other way around. JDBC, ODBC came with Java, but it only worked locally. So if you combine my knowledge of Java and his server, so I wrote basically a driver, JDBC driver using that ODBC, JDBC, ODBC gateway web front. So I think that was lovely to do. I didn't know that was my first job in the industry. I didn't know that that will be the best job I ever had. Well, apart from not having a job, that is. But yeah, okay. Let's do that and establish some communication. This is the beauty. We have Telegram. I mean, I joined Telegram 5 years ago. This is the best there is because it local first, offline first. I mean that is, and you can export your stuff and in a useful format HTML. And the scheme I working with based on the simple recognition of the idea that HTML itself is a data exchange format, if you think about it well. And at the same time, it has its own view. It's a human readable view of any information. That's what HTML pages are. So if you reverse that back and say, well, actually, can we as humans, write HTML, which is easy to read, easy to understand, clear for the humans, and use annotation, do it in such a way that it will be easy to make the computer make use of. Then that's it. If you solve that one universal problem, that's it. No more data modeling, no nothing, no backends, no thank you very much. No separate models, because once you got it in HTML, you can turn it into anything else. You can do whatever you want.
Well, that's basically what I did with my book. I wrote it in HTML. Yeah. All right. So
okay.
So are you gonna make a document or Gyuri, or let's say to share?
I will create a shared space on Cryptad and share it.
Yeah.
Hopefully by Monday, okay? Because I got go back today and have so many other things. But it is a very important thing for me. I had a few attempts before, but it's really need to figure out how the best thing to do. Yes.
So just to get us started, because once we have it, then we
Once we are on the same page, we can do everything.
Exactly. Very good. All right.
Okay.
So let's close it here.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a very good talk. Very helpful.
Thank you.
And let me see if I can save some of those the recordings that I did, because it crashed 2 times, so I don't know. Let's hope it's
okay.
We'll
see.
All right. Okay. See you later.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
See you later.
Right.
Bye bye.